The future of AI artists.
Not be the one to build artificial intelligence.
Hey, how's everybody doing? We made it. Day 3, we here. This is going to be the final of this session, but just the beginning of so many amazing things. So welcome again, everybody. Where y'all calling from? You know, some people are already putting it in the chat. You know, shout out to my veterans. We got Columbus, Ohio, Colorado. Ryan, what's going on, Brian? Good to see y'all. We got some amazing updates. I'm not sure if you all are watching us directly on YouTube, but you can now actually watch us straight in the Academy and use the chat. So if you're not already, I recommend everybody go back into the course in the Academy and you'll see something new in there. You actually can live chat right in the Academy. So I think it's really exciting stuff going on. You'll hear more updates from me. But overall, you know, how's everybody doing out there? Day 3 from Germany. ATL in the building. Shout out to Atlanta. Charles. You know, I feel like, you know, as I start to see your name, everyone's names more, super excited. Ukraine? Am I right? Andre? Vancouver. Okay, Canada in the house. I know we, for those that follow sports, I know we just took the title from Toronto, but that's okay. You know, we all on the same continent. So shout out to, you know, my Canada brethren. Seattle in the house. Greece. Let's go. I thought that was you, Maria. Shout out to Maria. The Sun Elf is in the building. Go Dodgers. Yeah, that's us. Florida in the house. Okay. San Antonio. Whoop, whoop. Awesome. Oh, I was going to say, you know, Maria's undercover. You know, she's doing some reconnaissance. Oh, yeah. This is a day that, you know, we've all had to come. It had to come. At some point, we can't go forever with this. There's other things you'll hear more that we can do, but, you know, I'm excited. This is good content today. We're going to run a little bit long. The subject is pretty meaty, but again, right now, the recordings, the live ones are going to be available, and then we're going to be taking the recordings and slicing them up, and then we're putting them up just so it's a little easier to digest for everybody. So expect that coming soon. All right, as everyone's kind of piling in, I think we're getting up to everyone's kind of getting in here. I'm gonna go ahead and walk through. Let's get started. So again, I'm your host. Excited, you know, pumped, honored to be able to have been on this journey with each of you, and you know, it's just been fun. I ain't gonna lie to you. It's really been fun getting to know you all and collaborating, and just as a team behind the scenes. There's so much that goes on between all of us that helps make this happen. So I just, for everybody in the chat, give a round of applause for Paola. She is a phenomenal person, but also an undeniably great partner in this program. So giving her a major shout out. I'd also give another major shout out to Bono. She's been a phenomenal resource. She's new to the team, but you couldn't tell. She's plugged right in and been doing so much as far as supporting with our communication and what we're doing next. And then Shreya, you know, always a phenomenal resource, She's working to get us new and more instructors for what's next. So I know you guys have had fun with me, but wait till you meet the crew and all the other folks we're going to be bringing to you. So, and then Maria behind the scenes, she's our internal critic. She always reviews things, give us a spicy take, and helps us get great. So as a team, I just couldn't go forward without shouting out to everybody. And then the new academy's up. We're getting closer. We learned so much from each of you. I just want to say thank you to everybody who's been chiming in. Every feedback you give, we are enacting. So just to show, I'm gonna switch screens here. You probably can see now that we have added chat into the actual LMS. So, if you go into the academy, you can go in and you can actually chat right from here. So what's exciting is we're going to be doing some things where you'll be able to engage all that directly from in the platform. And this will make it so it's less of a process of going different places and doing different things. So so much of what we're building is a result of your feedback and letting us know what's important and what you want to get done. So just want to again give a shout out to everybody. Phenomenal stuff. And, this couldn't be possible without each of you chiming in, sharing your feedback, and just staying so engaged. So we're here to pay it forward for you. So as I mentioned, you'll be able to find everything in the academy that goes for, all the pre-recordings, now live chat, upcoming events, some announcements, all the stuff. Everything will be there. And again, we are going to be doing some things that I'll announce today, primarily just to kind of prepare for what's next. But hey, you're part of this journey. But let me know in the chat, what's been your favorite part so far? How would you say you like the course, you don't like the course? Just give me a little bit of feedback in the chat. I'll read a little bit before we get started. So it won't let some people contribute. I just saw it for myself where it showed the chat. Maybe I'm not sure where. Let me do this. There's a little 3 dots. So I'm going to share my screen here. Let's see if this works. There's 3 dots. You can't open it up in another pop-up. I think you have to. Okay, so you have to be logged into YouTube, I think, to chat there. But at minimum, we can watch the chat, and we'll stay tuned there. And I know Paola's on. She can probably post some notes as we find out there. All right, let's go back here. And then I'm going to give a bunch of sneak peeks today. You guys get all the cheat codes, We're going to give you a lot of good views today. So I love what everyone's saying. This was not easy for me. It's very hard to understand and how to apply them. So I know for some folks, that was some challenges of just learning so much new stuff. So I guarantee you the recordings will be available. And then for other folks, people are saying completely eye-opening. I had no idea what my expectations were. My assumptions and help from my family did not really prepare me for what I was finding here. People are still finding very eye-opening and useful. And other folks are saying really like both vibe coding in this session. Great to try out tools and examples, and it challenges us to play around. So I love how everyone's on that different spectrum, from loving the challenge to eye-opening, mind-blowing to I need to definitely come back and learn some more. No matter where you are, it's okay. And I see other people are saying I love seeding, I love gene splicing. So there's so much of that variety. And just whenever you do a beginner's course, you're going to bring people from all levels, and the goal is really to have you grow. So I recommend, if you're overwhelmed, it's okay. That's part of growth. You should feel like you're learning some things that are pretty much either at where you are or at the fringe at minimum. And I think that's really going to give you a great ability to grow from what we're talking about today, especially. All right, let's get rolling. We got 10 minutes in. We got some good stuff to share. I'm going to keep going. So, today's a really big day to understand. I can't spend time going into any of the tools. If I do, instantly it's going to narrow the scope of what's possible for many folks. So specifically with agentic AI, a lot of the platforms are very much subscription based. So, I figured if I showed some of those tools, I can speak to them. We can provide links, things like that. But as far as concepts, I wanted to give you something that transcends any one platform. So you'll be able to leverage it universally. All right, so let's move in. Let's take a look here. Last thing, Charles, overall, each day delivered something new, but the way you deliver it demystified things. That doesn't mean I get it all at first to go around, but you make it less intimidating. Amazing. I agree, you know. Another Tom said, I agree. The detail of seasoning the pot is mind-boggling. There we go. Awesome. And people are, are all across the board. Can I get a There we go. Gordon, not letting it slip. We got to start with a little bit of the magic. So let's learn it all. Game-changing stuff here. I appreciate you all. And this is what it's all about. Growth. Let's do it together here. So, this is today. It's Agentic AI. We've done a lot. We covered a lot. Today is going to build on every concept, but still be fresh. So if you're new, if this is your first session here and you haven't seen the other stuff, you're good. But if you've been around for the last two, you're going to get a lot of value. So either way, there's something for you today. But then we got a lot of submissions. I couldn't put them all on the screen. There were so many. And I just love how some people are actually using this for their business cases already. So some people put notes like, hey, can you not share mine? Because it's actually what I'm going to be releasing. So many people took what we've done. And I'm excited to see you all continue to put it into your lives and make those changes. Like that is just so cool to see. I'm really excited that we took that level. But I see people are doing things, everything from like ad writers that help them explain their brand. People are doing things like creating study partners that help them plan their studying. People are designing products as well. So you can see like how people are thinking about the way that they're going to approach things. There's just so much good stuff. And I'm just excited that, you all are really like taking it and putting it to application. So if you're still new or kind of like still on that side, and I specifically mentioned the comments from some of the people that were kind of like, I'm not fully understanding, things fully, I'm learning, but it's in a good way, just to make sure for other people that might feel that way, you're not alone. But again, as you see, so many other people as well are getting a ton of value, putting it to practice. So, I just want to make sure that we speak it from a core of no matter where you are, this is just the beginning for you. And I totally see people changing their careers, taking leadership roles, being the SME, the subject matter expert at their company from this opportunity. So shout out to the folks that worked on the AI study planner, the ad writer, and their product vision for upcoming platforms are going to release. Today, it's about agentic AI. It's going to be a lot of challenging stuff I'm going to say today. So try to follow along. I'm expecting to go a little bit long today, but I think this is really the one that's going to be most counterculture, but most valuable for you practically. So let's walk. What makes AI agentic? Put it in the chat. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to really go forward and speak for the rest of this session. And then we'll actually talk more and I'll reply to them as we get into the Q&A part of today's session. So what makes AI agentic? My prediction here that really follows, the logic that you'll see me speak to is that fully autonomous agents, or the whole idea of like agents doing everything, it's a good idea. It's beautiful. It's great in theory. But in practice, they're really only useful in a narrow set of use cases that are repeatable scenarios. Think factory lines. Like if I'm making chocolate bars in a factory that are all the same, like a Snickers bar, for those that might know, or a Hershey bar. I'm not sure where everybody knows Hershey, but if I was making a product like that, it makes sense to have it repeatable because it's a standard thing. It's going to look the same, taste the same, be the same. I want that every time. But in the world of knowledge work, actually is not the case. Most of the time, that's going to end up in either AI slop or non-personalized content. Now, obviously, the AI can make a process that does things where it researches and it tailors for each one. But what you get generally is like, one, it's something that is not as like aligned with knowledge work's need for uniqueness and personalization. But then also, a lot of times these tools are very fragile. But behind the scenes, behind the concepts, is a huge amount of value. How they actually work, the planning, the tool use, memory, how they evaluate things. These are universally valuable concepts. So that's what we're going to stick on today. you're going to learn how agents work and how to apply those principles without needing a full agent platform. So that's the key thing for today. Let's go through it a little bit. We're going to click here. So agentic, what that means is a repeatable loop. It's not a buzzword like, agentic AI. That's where companies are today. They're kind of positioning it as a product. But underneath the hood, it's a loop of processes. So some people call it flows. That's the big concept you might see in platforms. You make agents, and then you put them into what's called agentic flows. And so that essentially is just a loop of steps that happen. And if you think about what's going on underneath the hood for those steps, when you type what you want it to do, or when you configure what you want it to be able to achieve, you're kind of setting the goal. And then there's steps that would happen through that. So whether you configure the flow yourself or the AI has some kind of master agent that does it all for you, there's ability for it to plan. And if you're using tools like NAN or some of these other like configuration tools where you can configure agentic flows, you're the one that's doing the planning. You're planning how the AI works together. But then other ones that are like less hands-on, they're more conversational, is doing that work for you. But all in all, there's a flow that happens. And that's the key thing to think about when you understand agentic AI, and we'll lean into. But agents have really 4 capabilities. And if you understand these 4, you have a lot of understanding of how things work and how to really get value out of these AI tools. So 1 is autonomy. How far it runs without you. So how much the AI can do without having to get back to you and get, understanding of what it needs to do. Reasoning and planning, meaning how we turn goals into checkable steps. So things that it can actually do and achieve. And then memory. This one's a big one where you'll see a lot of evolution continuing to happen, but the ability for it to have like, short-term memory, think of it like a scratch pad or a notepad, but then episodic memory, so it can remember things sequentially when things happened, and then overall having a long-term set of notes and understanding. So if you just break it down, there's a lot of complexity in the way that people are trying to create memory in these tools. Everything from like mimicking human memory, other kind of animals like, octopus. There's all kinds of different ways of having memory. And so that's really where you're going to see evolution. But from your perspective, if you just understand how it works, generally short-term and long-term and episodic, you should be pretty good. And then last is tool use. The main concept here is if you treat an agent as a sentence or that flow as a sentence, the tool is kind of the verb. It's where the doing takes place. So very simple concept to understand. But as far as like the way it shows up, you're really doing things like inputs and outputs. So a tool might be, I'm going to call, like if I use some of like the search features inside of ChatGPT, I'm going to call the internet. So I'm going to use the internet browser to search for something. Or I might have it to where I wanted to post something to LinkedIn or post something to Slack. Well, that's the output. So tool use sometimes fits in the middle. So there's some things for that. But generally it's like, it's a doing part and you're taking action as a verb. So, as a tool and as a platform, agentic AI's for actual capabilities are where you could actually get most of the value. Not saying that agentic AI is not useful, but what I'm predicting and what I see is that the actual technologies of it are going to become more ubiquitous. And I'll speak more to what that means. So the piece that's remaining, that's really a front where people are trying to improve, because even the agents today across the market, there's been a struggle to hit a lot of success. Now they've had a lot of good niche success. So like, government agencies or like big companies that have very standard processes that are repeatable, they're getting a lot of value today. But like the average person being able to use and leverage it, there's a lot, even in those scenarios with companies, there's a lot of challenges with governance, keeping the AI within a realm of doing stuff that's applicable instead of just going out there and being completely free and doing a lot of random things. So expect more concepts and more stuff to come there with governance. So that's one I wouldn't include it in the core 4 that make an agentic AI, but it's an additional concept to keep in mind because even you're going to have to work with how do you keep these things within the field of what you want to get done. And so then I want to show you there's 4 levels of autonomy. So as you kind of script out what an agentic AI is going to be, you're going to think of what are the things that it has. So what kind of tool use, what kind of memory, what kind of ability for it to, understand and reason. All those things are there. But the other core message or core piece of that formula is its levels of autonomy. And so think of like base level. So 0 is like one shot, meaning, it does little, essentially this is like ChatGPT. You type something, it spits out something, you reply. So it's iterative. Very much, the AI is doing not a lot of agentic. It's really just doing a step and then letting you execute. The second level is confirm. This is where you'll see this a lot in agentic tools or coding tools, things like that, where it'll have a little toggle box that says like auto. And if you don't toggle it on, it'll do a step and then ask you for permission. Do a step, then ask you for permission. There's intermediates between that where essentially it does a good portion of that. So that's this level 2 you'll see. So that's the third one here, where it will iterate, but it has to pass certain checks, meaning it has to be able to achieve certain goals. Otherwise, then it stops and asks for help. And then I think this one is a little bit more rare in practice, like people actually just letting it run. But level 3 is really what people imagine when they think of agentic AI, where, I just click one button and I walk away and it's just doing all kinds of magic, just doing it all. I do think that that's really high performing on repeatable tasks. And then if you're feeling a little bit more risky, it works pretty well when you're doing vibe coding. But the challenge with it generally is like, if you just let the AI run free without strong governance, strong ability to set the goal and keep it aligned, it's a little bit of a risk. You're rolling a lot of the dice there. But when it comes to tools, I want to also give you that final understanding of like, what's the current landscape of tools? There are a bunch out there. There are a bunch of tools, but they really fit 2 core buckets. There's technical stuff, and then there's non-technical. What I mean now, just in general, all of them are technical mostly. Like that's kind of where the industry is. There's very much a need for you to understand some of these concepts to use it. I would say there's some leaders that are trying to push it forward. Crew AI is one. That's again on the more non-technical side. Chat GPT is with the things they're doing with agents, making it really easy to use. And then also Google's got some new things they've released with their ability for you to create agents in their cloud platform. But, other ones kind of in the middle are like N8N. Think of these as like configuration tools. They're really an extension of the way that people approach enterprise software, where you configure everything and then it runs. And so that kind of structure is what you'll see with tools like N8N, where it's like a agent workstation to say. But the ones I mentioned before, more to the right, they might have those features, but they build something like we are language based, meaning you can configure with natural conversational agent creation, where you just talk to it and it does all the work for you. So, and then in the emerging, there's like maybe 10, 15 companies that all are coming out with their ways to make it easier, try to do it better. So there's a lot going on, but just want to give you a landscape. You can easily tell what's best for you. If you want control and you want ability to edit and tweak things, then it's best for you to go for some of the things around, these more hands-on configuration-based technical tools. If you want, just really explore, really learn, or like, you don't want to get all into the weeds, you want the AI to do most of it for you, I'd recommend some of these more non-technical tools, because they'll give you some of those like ability for you just to still use a chat box and get where you want to go. But let's take what we do and let's put it to action here. It's time to put it to work. We're going to actually walk through an example here together, but I'm going to open up the chat. I'm going to answer questions too as we do it. But today we're going to set a goal, and then we're going to walk through what it would be like for an AI. My point here is that if you can specify what the agent's going to do in this level of detail, you'll get higher fidelity for it. And even if you're just running them inside of ChatGPT and you're not actually setting up agents, this is a really good way for you to think about how you're going to create what we're going to describe as agentic pairings. So you'll hear more about that. It's going to be really fun and interesting in practice, but let's do an exercise together. So let's use the product we talked about from yesterday. For those that don't know, there was a product called Focus Loop. It was made up. It was a made-up idea of a product that's a smart notebook that lets you manage your notes and prepare and plan for your studying and things like that. So that's the product. Let's just say we want to make a product description for Focus Loop that is accurate and market tested compared to what's in the market. And so the thing that you would think about is, what would be the 5 steps that it would need to do? Put in the chat, what do you think are the steps that whatever agentic tools we build would have to do to make a market relevant business product description for Focus Loop? And we'll read some of them out here. Oh yeah, Repl is more of like a vibe coding tool per se, but it is powered by agentic tools. So that's a good point. But just while you're putting in the chat, what steps would an agent need to do to make the product description for a new product? Yeah, like there's a good point there. I struggle to understand what would be an agent versus what shouldn't be an agent, and that's not by chance. That's by design, because the market is generally put this new, they tried to, as LLMs and like these, core models came out, all the companies downstream wanted to like create product value on top of that. So they wanted to jump ahead of where those models and companies were going. So they jumped ahead and said, agentic AI is the thing. But what's happening is the models are now catching up in their functionality. So what is blurry is that stuff that was supposed to be a unique agentic AI thing are now coming into what's already just naturally AI tools. So that's kind of what's going on there. So it's kind of by design and way the market is shifting. Good stuff. So as far as the steps it would do, going back to our example here, it would need to research. It needs to capture some consumer engagement. It would need to have a vision, set goals. It would need to analyze and produce. You're right. Like you all get it pretty much, where the way that you make really good agentic specs, so you define what an agent needs to do or what kind of use cases you need to get done, is having a good ability to set out the plans. Then the next thing would be, what tools would it need? Would it need access to the internet? Would it need access to LinkedIn? Would it need access to, maybe some product reviews? Who knows? Love to put in the chat. What do you think? And so this product, just hypothetical product we're coming up with, is called Focus Loop. And it's a smart notebook that lets you manage your notes, etc. So that's the example we're using just for this exercise. And so what tools it would need is a good question. And then let's think about this. What memory would it need to keep? That's a little bit of a harder one, huh? Not just thinking about what does it need to know or what does it need to do, but what does it need to remember? And it might need to remember things like what's important to customers. What are the value props of competitors? What is the previous things you mentioned about it? What is included in documents you shared? So memory is something that will make a lot of difference. So being able to think about like what things does it need to remember is pretty valuable too. And long-term memory is a large part of that. Like you'll need to remember a good amount of things, but the ability for it to use that short memory is also very important. So just think of it like, what memories will it need to keep to be successful? Now here's another one, number 5. There's another thing here. With Rubric, this is where you're going to make the biggest like standard improvement in agentic processes, giving it a way to score itself or a way for additional agent to score the previous agent. And so I see some people put in the chat, it needs access to folders, it needs access to threads of content. Good point. But just kind of closing that point on Rubric, that's where you're going to have the biggest place to help it be more autonomous. So you can make simple loops like and basic conditions where, like, let's just say you have one prompt you put in that lets the AI generate a business idea. And then you have another prompt or another markdown document that you can load in that has the critic. And the critic reviews and gives it a score of how good that is. That then could be set to, if it's lower than a number, ask the human. If it's higher than a number, go forward and continue to finish. So there's an idea here of like self-review that's very powerful in making something agentic. Just by adding that one number 5 line of like a rubric to many of these processes, you'll see it's going to really improve things. We've already been doing this though. On day 1, when I told you to create those ideas and then when you're creating your frame and then having it define what it is, and then have it actually give you 10 suggestions of new ideas that are better and having it rank them, it's that. So rubric and rubric-based conditions is a very powerful term and concept to include. Yeah, this is like a tiny notebook LLM. This is what we're kind of coming up with for the idea. But as you guys can see, it's all about thinking about this holistically, understanding what is going on, what is important, and how can I actually create this to be more self-sufficient and very logical. So if you just kind of go through these kind of specs when you're thinking about a new tool, a new functionality you want to add, it'll go a long way for you. So final questions. I see we had a couple questions I'll close out. If it's long-term memory, would it be suitable for smartphones? More and more, I think yes. Long-term memory is going to change in general. What we think of as long-term is really not that long today. There's going to be more concepts of what long-term memory looks like, where people are using things like RAG today, where they'll store things in a database, and then you'll be able to call that database based on keywords, things like that. But there's other types of memory people are creating that are a little bit more higher magnitude. So if you think of like where we're going, there's going to be a lot of evolution there. And then I think, Charles, you're asking about would addressing learning style help with this? I'm not sure. If you definitely follow up, I'll double click on that. But I do think people have different learning styles. So, for those that are wanting to follow up and get more context, I recommend coming back, checking out the recordings. And it's kind of meant to have, value for a second watch. So you're in the mode today, you're experiencing it and you're being exposed to it. But then when you come back and you pursue it again, you'll be adopting it. And I think that's something that, I really want to provide in my courses so that it has more staying power. I'm not trying to be snack food. I'm not trying to be fast food where it's like edutainment, where it's like, this was fun. This is cool. It looks cool. But then in practice, you can't quite leverage it. It's not useful. It's snacky. This is meant to be tasty, but have some substance. So you feel good on the other side. And my experience is I really feel good when I grow, not when I'm taught things I already know. So embrace the uncomfortability for those that are more on that side. Embrace the uncertainty and really know the more uncomfortable you are, the more you're likely to grow exponentially. All right, let's get back to it. Lesson 2. Y'all ready? How y'all feeling so far? Y'all liking the content? Y'all following along? If you're not, if you're kind of confused, let us know in the chat. No question is too small, and I'll come back and circle back to touch on that before we end out. All right, we're going to get into lesson 2 here. This is me giving you the cheat codes. This here is the holy grail of opportunity for people. Yes, agentic tools are useful. They got a lot of value. But as I mentioned, the premise here is agentic functionality will become more and more ubiquitous and indistinguishable from standard AI functionality. All the things that are like now some agentic platform are just going to be part of all tools. Like, for example, ChatGPT released their feature called Pulse, where you can have it schedule to do research or schedule it to do run a process and then send it to your email. That's a result exactly of taking some of the agentic functionality and putting it right in as a standard feature. So if that's the paradigm where agentic functionality is going to be more standard in the platform, what I think is more valuable than just knowing how agentic tools work and agentic platforms work is how to create your own agentic pairings. And what I mean is if you take the ideas we learned before about how you can make your own documents, if we make those documents like, that allow for us to do use cases from context engineering, so we're staking these new markdown files, those documents can be used in combinations to do things. So I'll show you what that looks like. Main point, you don't need an agentic tool to work agentically. You can wrap your workflows, so what you want to do, in agentic patterns. And so I'm going to show you just what that looks like today and how you can leverage that. And you're going to take away some really powerful concepts. But it comes from this point where, you don't need agentic tools to get value from agentic technology. And then keep in mind, full autonomy, like completely autonomous things, is pretty fragile as well. Because if something is fully autonomous, there's some premises that, especially if it's online, if it's accessing stuff online, that things are going to stay roughly the same. But things change all the time. And so if you're creating something that, like, for example, goes and searches the internet or does this, does that, it's going to break at a certain point because companies change their policies, they change their capabilities, they change their products. There's all kinds of stuff that's evolving constantly. So for that idea, human in the loop and light autonomy wins most for most knowledge work. So for you, that means that you actually are better positioned now to get value from agentic AI, even before you've ever used any kind of agentic tool. And so the core idea here that you're going to really get from me that I think is so transformational is, remember before we talked about making these documents. Then we talked about how you can, seed or combine them to make something. So addition. And we talked about subtraction, where you could use one to extract certain features and put it in another. Or you could gene splice in that way, take certain things from it and add it to a new document. But what this is about is using them together. So it's kind of like what they call a fractal, where it's an iterative loop, where you do one step, or so one of your prompt documents does one step, and then on the next step, you as a human upload that next document and ask it to do the next step. So you as the human are the flow and the human in the loop, but the nodes or the agents are your documents now. And that's the big shift. You learned before in the previous sessions how to make these documents that will be your go-tos, so you can use, so you have a library of prompts instead of you using one-off typing your prompts. And those prompting documents, not only can they be combined or things can be extracted from them, they can be used sequentially. And that's the key idea that I'm going to be going over today, is some real standard best practice, amazing agentic pairings you can create. So let's take a look at a couple. And the idea is very simple. You create a prompt document, and then you create another prompt document that uses the output from the previous. So everything we learned before about how you can use, the frame and field, the methods there, to then create what the agentic AI looks like or what it can do. And then from that, you can then take it to where the output of that AI is then consumed by the other document that you create. So it's set up to where it uses the results as its input. And it's this concept that lets you pair two markdown documents in a sequential workflow. And it could be two or more. It could be 3, 4, 5 documents. But the big thing here is you're not combining the documents. You're essentially using them step by step in a sequential prompt. So I'm going to give you some examples of some ones that are just nights out going to make you a better performer at your job and just generally help you bring any idea to life faster. So this is the screenshot slide, y'all. This is the one that's going to give you the cheat codes for your career. Let's go. So first one, this is a very powerful one, planner doer. So what you're going to do is you're going to stake a document that is good at planning. And again, it could be good at planning for things that are related to your job, or if you want to release a book or something and you really are focused on that, it could be a planner around the things related to your book. But the idea is that it's the tool that sets the goals of what to do. this to take a little bit of, it's not always going to be right, but this could take a little bit of the burden off of you because you wouldn't have to figure it out. You could say, here's my goal. I want you to create that short description for the company product of focus, focus loop, whatever that product we talked about. And the goal is for you to make that document. But for it to go ahead and come up with what to do and how to do it, having a planner markdown file that's kind of set up to do that for you could be very helpful, because then it will do the hard work of figuring out what to do. And then you can take the results and then pass that to another markdown file. So what I mean is, just giving you an example, I'm going to switch over here and show you. So if I make a new chat, I was like, can you give me a document in text that works as a simple AI prompt that can plan based on any goal I share. It can create 5-step plan to achieve. So I put that in there, and that's going to allow for it to again generate that core idea. So it's going to analyzing, and I'm going to move it to quick mode so it moves a little faster for the next one. And then I'm just going to add that here. Then I'll say, can you give me the raw text? Just for this example, instead of downloading it. All right, so I'll copy this. So now I'll say, can you make a description for the focus loop smart notebook product? And then I'll actually put in there, use the following tool to set goals. Boom. So you see now, if this is doing that work for me, so what this is helping with, and I'll zoom in just so people might be able to see it a little bit better, bigger on the screen. This will allow for us to then take this plan and then give that as in the input of a doer. So then I can say, can you create a document and give me the raw text for a prompt that takes plans and executes them? So then we got the AI doer. So then I can say, using the following goals and steps, can you leverage the doer? So here's the goal and steps, and then here is the doer code. Now copy that. Only do the doer tasks. And again, I'm using raw text because I'm just doing it for this example, but you would literally load in those doc files that you have. So it's a little easier. And so right now it's doing step 1, it's following it. It's doing step 2, it's following it. So as you get what I'm saying here, this is what this process is going to help you do. It's going to help you create agentic capability because you're just using these different doc files in sequence. And that's a very powerful thing to understand, because then you can just take certain documents and have them either have a collaborative or a complementary relationship, or it can be adversarial, where they critique each other, or they do different things that actually compete with each other. And so just to bring it home, that's the first one. I'm gonna give a couple more here. Another one is the proposer and the critic. This is an example of an adversarial one, where you would create, again, using the same process I showed you, you'd create a document or create a prompt doc that essentially is a draft creator. It will propose ideas, it will, brief, it'll give it a plan, it'll do decisions, it can flesh it out for you. And then you create another one that's a really good critic, meaning its goal is to review plans and then suggest how to improve it or even revise it directly. Again, if you compare what the first one was, they were complementary, planner doer. This here is adversarial, where the proposer gets critiqued, and that critique is not like meant to be building on as much as deconstruct. Another really cool one, this one's pretty interesting, is context packer and actor. What I mean by this is, like, a lot of times when you ask it to go search for stuff, it can just go all over the place. Or you ask it to do some research, it can go all over the place. But if you ask it to pack up that content, so do some research and then pack it up in a digestible way where it has the brief of what it knows, it has the citations, it has the risk and open questions identified, you then can pass that to something that serves as the actor where it executes on that thing. And so this is another example of a complementary kind of agentic pairing. But literally all you're doing is making these text files and then using them sequentially. It's really simple stuff. So if you have some questions or you might be a little confused, put it in the chat. We're here to support you. But I know for most people who might be following along, it's something you've already been doing. But it's really simple in practice. You're generating these doc files and you're just using them sequentially to create this agentic experience. The last one I'll show, there's tons more. Like, there's so many combinations. This is really untapped area for you guys. You could be some of the top people in the world using this technology and doing it this way, because most people just aren't thinking about it like this. It's so powerful, but people just still are in the world of I'm prompting individually. And you have some people that are getting to the point of using doc files and creating their prompt library. So that is happening, but I don't see a lot of sophistication in the market of how people are pairing up these doc files and using them in different sequences to achieve bigger goals. But just give you an example, this last one, you can have it similar to Pack. It can do a gather function where it goes and gathers facts for you and then validates them. And then Weave could be a tool where it takes those facts and then weaves it into whatever document you have. So, for example, if I have produced that short description of the company, I can then use the gather doc to go find data points and insights online, and then take my document that I have, load in the results from the gather, and then load in the weave doc and ask it to weave the new ideas into my old plan. So just as you can see, these are 4 really high value, super easy to do. You don't have to be technical at all. Like, literally, you just typing in text and you're having it generating doc files, and then you're using those doc files. So if you can upload, if you can write a sentence, and you can think creatively, you should be able to implement some of these techniques. And why this wins, I think, is really important, is that it's tiny, meaning the scope, you're not looking for one big agent to do all these magical things. It's very tiny. Every individual doc file does one job to be done. It's auditable, meaning since you're in the loop, you're not going to have all these processes running for hours and hours. And then when it's time to review what happened or figure out what broke or what didn't work, you have to go spend hours relogging and figure out what's going on. So it's very much auditable, and it becomes swappable pieces. Imagine as you start building your library of these prompt documents, and you have a bunch of them out there that you've staked from different use cases, you're going to be able to swap them in combinations. So you might use the planner to then feed into the proposer, which then feeds into the critic, which then has a rule that if it's good enough, then send to the doer. But if it's not good enough, then use the send back to the proposer with changes. So there's so much to be explored here. And I can't tell you enough that if I had to leave you with something to like really lean into and continue doing, this would be it. This is the area where you can really get some value between seeding, gene splicing, and now creating agentic pairings, you're going to be an unstoppable force out there in the market. So I'm excited to see you get out there with some of these learnings. So with that said, let's open it up. Q&A. What are you thinking? How you feeling? I'm going to answer some questions. Maybe I'll go back a slide or two if people have things they want me to touch on. And then we'll talk about what's next as we close out with assignments and how everybody get their certificates. All right. So just kind of reading what people are saying. Okay. Wow. Wow. Bunch of wows. A lot of clarity. I see that people are saying. This is really cool. Amazing. Some interesting things. Okay, let me do this. I'm gonna put that doer one back up on the screen and move myself off to the side. So let me do this. I'm gonna switch here. We'll go back to the doer so those can see the doer executes step by step and logs the results. So the doer again is like taking the steps from the previous planner and executing them. And you all saw me do that real time inside of ChatGPT. Again, continue to tell me, what are you thinking about this? What's some questions you might have? Let me know and I'll touch on those. This is really good because people said things like it limits the AI hallucinations. It gives structure, reduces chaos. I wrote, Maria mentioned she wrote a claim and had ChatGPT criticize it. That's pretty cool. Wow is the new Wow, that's fun. Wow, I don't know if I can even say that. What wom? I'll leave it for you guys. We are becoming stars. I agree. Like I told you, these are things that I know each of you will be able to leverage and put to practice in a very powerful way. It's an orchestration. Yeah, you are the orchestrator as the human in the loop, but you're really doing agentic work, which is pretty interesting when you think about it. Yeah, good question, Nick. So Nick says, just for clarity speaking, using this form or this process within AI is basically to shorthand writing, basic and direct without long drawn out sentences. Yeah, I think there's some of that that's going to be capable. But overall, what you're getting out of the business of is writing sentences in general. You're you're asking the AI to make doc files for you. So then when you go to do a step, you just load that doc file in and it does all the work for you. Because if you think about it, if you had to write the level of detail that we're describing, you'd spend all your time writing prompts. So that's what this whole idea of using staking to generate new files and then use those files again down the road to do different steps. Because then the file will do all the work. It'll be paragraphs of content instead of you having to deal with it. And you can use Notepad to then be the thing to save it to save as a text file. I recommend Markdown files just because the AI can use them better. And it's definitely something that has not just the text, but it has styling. So the AI can see bold or things that are highlighted, stuff like that. So that's a very valuable thing to keep in mind. But a text file works. What I do think is important to understand is the difference between PDF and then textual file types. Textual file types are .text, .markdown or .md, which is markdown. Those are the textual types. .rtf, which is rich text format. But then the challenge that you have with those generally is that the ones that are not rich text format or markdown are just harder for the AI to read. Then PDF is different. PDFs most of the time get treated like pictures, and they use a technology called OCR to extract the content from the PDF. So I just recommend using raw text. Doc files is a little hairy too, because it's like a proprietary doc file type. So it has to, what companies like ChatGPT have done is they got a processor that'll process that doc file and then on its side turn it into something like textual or markdown. And same with PDF, it would extract the meaning from that PDF. So think text file, rich text files, and markdown files as your main go-tos. So how do we incorporate these type of tactics into something like LangChain? same thing. So instead of having markdown files by themselves, you'll take the details in the markdown file and put that into the agent. So each in this, let's just say these pairings, planner, doer, you essentially in LangChain make it to where the planner is the first step and then the doer is the second step. And those are two different agents. And you just take the text that you have and the configurations that are described in that text, and you configure that in LangChain. And so what I can do, I'll show you. If I go here, I can literally say for this doer functionality. So I'll go back up here, grab this. For the doer.md file we created, can you help share how I can create it as an actual agent in LangChain? Give tips and best practice. So you see, I can easily take that doc file and ask it to give me a description of how to build it inside of LangChain. So this is what, again, I think is so powerful about what I'm sharing with you today. It has universal value. It's a great place to think things out. It could be used in its own with any LLM. And then if you do want to go full-blown agentic and go use some of the platforms, it's really easy just to load it in and ask the AI how to make it in LangChain. And so you already have these details. So it'll show you this is how you should set up your folder. Here's the actual code that you should use to create an example. So like, it's a great way to start no matter what. What I taught you today, my goal was to give you superpowers. That it doesn't matter what tool exists, because what's going to happen, companies are going to keep buying companies, new companies are going to come out, pricing models are going to change. There's going to be so much that changes on the technology stack that if you're so beholden to these technologies, you're going to be held up. So I recommend everybody take what we learned today because it's universal value that you could apply anywhere. And again, today I highlighted a lot of the people that were maybe more beginner or not really confused or not fully aware or maybe a little bit confused, because I just want to really share with you that you are in the right place to grow. Now, for most people, I think majority of what I'm getting through chat for people sharing, most people are gathering and getting it. So even if you are one of those folks that is kind of like, learning for the first time and kind of, a little behind, it's okay. Feel comfortable. But for the most of the people I've seen that are like, right here and putting this stuff to practice, go further, go bolder, because shout out to Boulder, Colorado, but it's all about using the things I'm sharing with you because these are universal skills. So you will definitely benefit 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years from now from what you've learned today. But if I taught you N8N itself, that might not be useful a year from now. So conceptually, these are very straightforward concepts that, again, you could use any way you want. So good question there. All right, we're right at time. I'm going to bring us on home to close this out as far as our next steps on assignments and then what's going on. So the assignment for today is to make your own agentic pairing. So whether it's, you could use ChatGPT, you could use the free LLM product we shared, but you're going to essentially create 2 doc files, and then you're going to put those in a folder and save and submit that through the Google form. So again, you could take one of the examples I shared. You could take the planner doer. You could take the proposer critic. You could take the content packer, the actor, or you can make your own pairing. So reach whatever one you want to do. The ask for the assignment is for you to create 2 doc files that are agentic pairings, and then put them in a folder, upload them together, and then in the notes on the form, share what you thought about the experience, what you learned, and what was so interesting for you. Again, homework-wise, this is the last assignment. So, really you're just building on things you already learned. You're going to make 2 doc files and then actually put those in a folder and share them. Very straightforward. Feel free, if you don't know where to start, feel free to use one of the 3 here on the screen. And you just make your own version of a planner, your own version of a doer, your own version of a critic, those kind of things. or you can make your own complete pairing that you thought up on your own. But either way, that is the assignment for today. And if you have questions about the assignment, go ahead and post it in the chat. I'll come back to that and take a look. But everything will be in the academy. You heard me say it a million times. You'll be able to submit your assignment there. Round of applause for you all. You just completed day 3. We made it. I know it's been so hard to like do things and stick to things. And so for me, I don't take it for granted. I'm so thankful that every one of you decided to stick around and actually engage. We've had everybody who joined stay all the way to the end. That doesn't happen most of the time. You know, people drop off, stuff like that. I'm just so excited and pumped that you all found value in what we talked about today and shared over this course. For me, it's been a blast to do. And all the emails you all sent me, my LinkedIn is broken, you know. So if I don't get back to you and I haven't got back to you online, it's because like, it's just been flooding my inboxes, but it's a good thing. I'm thankful. It's an honor I have. And I'm trying to go through everything every day and trying to catch up with folks. But thank you all for just being so just amazing to collaborate with. I mean, I cannot say what it's been like on this side. I've seen people share with me their promotions that they've gotten. I've seen people share with me new products that they're actually pitching and they've won startup competitions with. Like, I'm just blown away what I've seen people do with the things I've shared. And it just makes me feel good to know that people are really doing good things in this world from what I've shared. A couple questions people have. Would you give an example of a proposer-critic pairing? Yeah, I can do that real quick. As a second here, I just want to make sure anyone else has other questions. I'll touch on those. What's the best app for working with markdown files? Something like Notepad++, or something like, you know, any kind of text editing files or document editors. Those are really good. And then any kind of like tools like Cursor or any IDEs or any like coding tools, those are also really good. Can you use these MD files for infinite recursion loop with human feedback? Yes. And then how does it relate to essence extraction and context engineering from the days past? Yeah. So essence extraction could be one of your agent pairings that then you connect to something else. So there's a core idea here that I've taught you that I'm building on. You make these doc files, and then once they're made, you can then use them to make more. So it's that kind of a thing to just kind of think in mind of like how you're able to do it. That's really valuable. In practice, all the things I showed you before are just other versions of the same concept. They are additional, core prompt documents that can be chained together in a sequence. So if you think about it, day 1, I taught you how to make documents. Day 2, I taught you how to combine them and extract from them. Day 3, which is where we are, is how to use them in sequences. But it's the same concept altogether. Last thing, Maria, you were right on. It would be cool to have a great playground where we could test each other's. That is coming. So for those that don't know, in the Academy, we are creating a place where you can see other people's works. And that's something you'll be able to access as a tool and platform that is called the Showcase. So people will be able to publish their agent tools. People will be able to share them, be able to download them. All that will be there. We are putting a little bit more features into that. So that's going to be coming out with our bigger release coming out at the end of the month, going into December. How would I incorporate this as a doc analyst in an institution dealing with student docs? Is that, again, you can have it to where you have a document that defines how to read the student assignments. So like if there's certain set docs like a dissertation or a project report or something like that, you can have an interpreter or something that does reviews of that specific doc type. And so you might have one of those files for each of the types, one for their final essay, one for their work assignments, and one for their dissertation or whatever that is. And then each one could be used differently with a different doer or critiquer or analyzer. So it's all about like having these different tools that source or process whatever the different thing is, but then the steps after could be the same every time. Yeah. So Tom, good point. In higher education, we call these transferable skills. That's the thing here. You'll be able to apply these to everything. Yeah, Lane Chan is just one of those platforms. I showed them before. There's a bunch of other platforms out there. And there's so many things you can use there. So yes, so the showcase is not currently available. We will be publishing that. Stay tuned to your inboxes, because even though we're closing out today, we'll be doing a lot more there and adding more value. So you'll be getting a lot more for us. But I'm going to stick around and do a couple examples for people that want to know or wanted to see them. Maybe answer any more questions people might have. I know it's our last session, but I do want to just close out and give you a couple things to note. Certificates. We will review all submissions and send certificates to those who completed all 3 assignments using the same email address provided in the form by November 14th. Make sure to add us as a safe sender so that you don't miss your certificate. Because what can happen, and we saw this last time, we sent our certificates and it went to people's spam folders. So make sure you're on tune. You favorite, if you got an email from us, favorite it, things like that, so that your email platform understands that we're actually useful to come to your inbox, because that's going to make sure your certificate doesn't get lost. We've had so many people reach out and they'll be like, I don't get where's my certificate? And it's like, oh yeah, it's in my spam, sorry. So just to save you that back and forth, definitely make sure you will get your certificate by November 14th. Wow, so many comments and questions. Wow. Tom says, I want my kids to take this course. What an honor, man. That means a lot to me. That means you see the value of what's possible. You can have them go back to the academy, have them create an account. So create an account under their names, and then they'll be able to enroll in the course. And we're going to post not this live version, but the recordings from the lesson parts. So every part where we did the interactive, it'll be proposed for them to do, and you could do with them as like interactive, as a family. And I think that's a really fun thing to do, where as a group, you can sit down and say, for the interactive parts, how would an agent think? How would it go? How would it plan? It's really fun stuff to do together, especially with people you love. But then the concepts could be taught by just watching the lesson. So really fun to do. Oh yeah, you could try. One is enough. You could do one. Just do one. Play with whatever you want. This is your fun to be had, but really just need one pairing. Wow, Mama Llama, thank you. So grateful. Thanks, Samuel. I thank God for you and your generosity. That means a lot to me. I'm really just thankful to pay it forward to you. And Charles, thanks for plus wanting that. Like, I'm so glad that you all are getting value. I know I spoke a lot today about folks that maybe were, not able to fully understand concepts. I just wanted to bring them into our party. But I agree with you. Overwhelmingly, what I've seen from people is that people are getting a lot of value from this, and they're changing their lives. And so I don't take that as a lightful thing. And I really just I wake up. I stay up all night sometimes working on this stuff for you guys. And hopefully that passion and that hard work shows, because my dream is to change one person's life. If I can make one person able to go to a new level, I put my karma out there in the world, so it just gives me joy to know that people are getting value like this. It's a dream come true for me. I'm getting all teary, guys. Another question with markdowns. I get into less loops. That's a great point, Melissa and Missy, for those that kind of know who I'm talking about. Markdowns just, that approach is just so powerful. It's going to let you get more value than the average person with AI. Remember, prompt engineering, old school. Context engineering is what you all are doing here. Eddie says, thank you very much, Sam. Oh, so much big heart to you as well. I'm so thankful. Anna says, I'm a real beginner, but it's been awesome to hear what's out there. Hoping to try practice more and to incorporate in my new business idea. Let's go, Anna. Everybody give a shout out to Anna. Let's make her business pop. For anyone that's got a business idea or you're transforming what you're doing, send us an email. Send an email to Academy, and I'll make sure to shout it out on my personal LinkedIn, things like that. Because again, you can go to Coursera and take a pre-recorded course. You can go to LinkedIn and watch you can do a master. There's so much out there. But what I'm in the business of is changing people's lives. And I firmly believe that the live experience where you can interact with others and interact with the instructor is a better format for doing just that, versus just watching something passively, having questions, not being able to answer them. It's just a different thing. Nothing against it, but hopefully everyone enjoys what we're doing here that's meant to be fundamentally different. Diane says, thank you. We appreciate all your tips and insights. What's the deadline for submitting assignments? That will be by next Monday. So you have till Monday to submit assignments. For those, maybe we can put it in the banner, Paolo, that says submit by date, something like that. But it's going to be by Monday that we'll ask everyone to submit their 3 assignments. The reason why there's such a turnaround is we just need to do it to make sure everybody can get access to it. All right. Thanks, Sam and team. Thanks for the classes. Somebody said, I need a degree in Sam. Oh, y'all too nice. I'm infinitely thankful for you. And you've already given me joy just knowing that you are getting value. So just keep on crushing it out there. Go to the next level. And when you're off you're on your mansion, in your yacht, having a good time. I think shout out to Maria if you're on a yacht in Greece because you've made $1 billion. You don't got to put no dollars in my bank, but just send me a shout out and say, thanks, my man. That'd be a lot. It mean a lot to me. Thank you. This is so useful. Thank you, Sam. Wow, there's so much. Sam, you're giving emojis. You guys are just phenomenal. I can read, shout outs to myself all day, but I'm probably, just too giddy to know that you all are getting value. It's we that's valuable. I couldn't do this without you. Every time you guys send me messages, it gets me more motivated. So I know you're working on that yacht, at least invite me to the yacht party, y'all. I promise to be, bring some more gifts. Okay, blessings to everybody. I know we're kind of wrapping up here. If anyone wants to stick around, I'm going to show one more example of how you could use the critic example that we talked about. So the pros or critic example. And then feel free to put any more comments and questions. I'll come back and close out again. But for everyone that's leaving or not sticking around, so many thank yous, so kudos. It's been amazing to work with you. And expect more content to come from us through our email. Our next courses are going to be going into the top of the year. But the thing I'm going to do before I go and come back to show an example, if you want us to continue to go on, we're not going to have another course until December. The best place to go is to join into Vibe Methods. And again, I'm going to play that video one more time, and then I'm going to come back. But if you sign up today and within the next hour, if you haven't signed up already, if you're new and you sign up to Vibe Methods, you'll get 2 weeks free. For those that are already signed up, if you send an email to academy.genaiworks today and you send a follow-up to us saying, tell us what you like about Vibe Methods so far, what's been useful, I'm going to do a one-on-one with you and walk with you through what's coming up for the next 4 episodes. So you're going to get an insider feel. You're going to get aligned with us and you'll be able to share direct feedback. So I recommend everybody, if you want to continue from today, we won't have any more courses for a couple of weeks, but you will be able to join in the Vibe Methods. And if you're new, it's going to be free. So all you got to do is sign up. Paolo will put the link in the chat. I'm going to play the video real quick, and then we'll come back and I'll show an example as we close out. See y'all in a second.
The future AI artist.
Not be the one to artificial intelligence.
Wow. We closing out, everybody. It's been amazing. If you want to continue, again, make sure to sign up for Vibe Methods. That's going to be your best way to stay in tune. And I'll just give a shout out to Nick. It just makes me feel so good. I'm so thankful. but thanks for sharing. So Nick says, because of Sam and these courses, I made 4 albums that I written but was unable to create till recently. Current working on a movie, anime style. That's what it's all about. Really phenomenal. Andre said, thank you, Sam. I know how to apply all that for my work. So many people are putting it right to their work. Brian says he has a question. What happens if you cut and paste AI output into Word and then later input the Word document? Make sure you export the Word document as a text file. Because if you think about it, text files, markdown files, those act as just as if you typed it in. But the moment you load in a doc file, a .doc, or a .pdf, that's when you're going to get a different kind of process under the hood that does it. And every company has different processes and how they handle those files. But every company handles text file types the same. All right, I'm going to see if I can move on and show this example. So .xml files are not bad either. They work pretty good too. They're another good file type, especially if you have like a database of something. But if you're like looking to like put descriptions of things, Markdown is generally better than what you would get from a .xml. But think of .xml as a version of a spreadsheet. That's the same way as Markdown is a version of a PDF or a version of a doc file. So XML and Markdown are the AI friendly versions of a doc file and a spreadsheet. Awesome. So let's take a look at this example. We can close out here as we finish here. I know we got so many. Wow, I can't believe so many people are still sticking around. We are like 18 minutes over. So I'm gonna get you and show you an example and get you all out of here. So I know time is so expensive these days. So let me go ahead and show one more example that someone asked about, and then we'll close out. So someone asked, can we show an example of the critic doer? So I'm gonna go ahead and create a new one here. And I'm gonna go ahead and open up this just so you all can see. And I'm gonna go ahead and grab this. So I'm gonna ask you to create. Can you create a doc text I can use as a prompt for a proposer that takes my goals and proposes steps to achieve and a way to do the goal with more focus on the idea and the concept than the steps. This is meant to be the thinker for future action steps. So you see, it says your purpose is to take the user's goal. And then, don't write detailed steps or task lists. Focus on the why, how it will work, etc. So now just take this and say, using the following tool, can you help me propose a plan for my goal below? And the goal could be, again, goal, create a market plan for the product called Focus Loop, which is a smart notebook product, but focus on a novel way to present it that will be mind-blowing. You gotta always throw in some mind-blowing in there, have a little fun. And then use the framework below. So that's going to go ahead and do that. It's executing as proposer. So you see, this is the proposal. And then I'm going to do a separate tab. I'm going to open up a new chat and say, like I did before. So when I was here, I scrolled to the top. I'm going to ask it to make a new one. So while that's cooking that up down below here, it's creating all the core ideas of what that is. I can say in a separate chat, can you create a text file to use as a, instead of a prompt, I can say as a prompt for a critic that reviews my proposed steps to achieve and way to do the goal with more focus on the idea and evaluate with a score. And if below 7 out of 10, then shares a revision. But if above 7 out of 10, gives suggestions on how to implement. This is meant to be the critical thinker for future action steps. So this is making my critique agent prompt. And so now this generated the plan. But look at this. Even before I did it, it already was thinking ahead, and it was like, would you like me to create a critic version that evaluates these ideas? So I could just say, yeah. Let's see what that does. So you see, even though I went on a separate tab and tried to make one here, a lot of times the AI kind of gets where you're going, what you're trying to do. And it was like, all right, I know what you want. So let me just use the one that it already made. So I can say, taking the final proposal below, can you apply the critic and give me the result? So I can give that critic, put that right there. So that's the result. And then I can say, give me this idea, which is this one here. Use the following proposal. Then boom. Now you've just done your first adversarial agent pairing. So it says, hey, the idea is original, has some good clarity, has some emotional impact. Overall recommendations. So it's doing pretty good. So final assessment. This is a good concept. It's got a ground vision. You see, now do you want me to create a marketer? You see where this is going. The idea is that you end up making these sequences of tools. And now once I have these doc files, I can export them or save them as separate documents. And I can just inload them each time I want to use them. So I can say, in this scenario, yeah, make me a marketer. So I showed you pairings, which are two things together. But you can easily just add more and more and create these chains that work together to achieve goals. So hopefully for those that wanted to see, that's an example of how this would work in practice, and a real example of a proposal critique kind of use case. All righty. Thanks, everybody. That's the last thing I was going to show. This helps a lot. I saw Nick. I've been using AI tools just like this, but wasn't confident I was doing it correctly. So yeah, this is right with your gut. Since it's still quite abstract, when would you actually use what you just created for what purpose? Like in the real world, some really good things. So like if I'm making a document, like if I'm making a presentation, I would use this process where I would write out my idea. I would make one that's like an AI enhancer, or like that AI packed example I showed, where it would take my idea and kind of repackage it. And then I would send that to the critic for review. So these are examples of like how I would use it in work. You could do it for research. You could do it for, there's just so many examples under the sun where you're, again, the same concept is you're using these different use cases to be available. I will try to make sure the example, I know, Paula, maybe we have to make this a note where the example I just did is included. So yeah, for everybody, this is the last session. We won't have any more this month. The only place you'll be able to continue our learning and content is through Vibe Methods. Don't worry, for those that sign up, it will charge you to get started, but you'll get free from then on. It's only $10 a week. Very easy, just the price of a coffee from Starbucks or a sandwich. And we're going to give you powerful content. Think of what we did today as a level below what that is. And it's going to be just as approachable, just as easy to understand. But there I'm giving you the doc files already made. So you notice how we made these different files and things like that. I'm giving those files to you. So instead of you, like right now, you're going to get some of the simple prompts. I'm going further with that, where I'm giving you actual working products and, working doc files you can use, links to exclusive things. So the key there, I'm going to show those maybe that are here, maybe around, stick around here, so you can actually see what it looks like. This is what Vibe Methods looks like in the product. You all can see here. You'll get a video of what it is.
Every week, a new AI breakthrough flashes across your screen. Most people just watch from the sidelines, but what if you could grab those breakthroughs and turn them into something real? This isn't just a course, and this is not a newsletter. It's the first of a kind experience. Each week, you won't just learn about the news. You'll get to act on it.
And then as you can see, you'll get some information, but you'll also get direct prompts you can use right in ChatGPT. So this prompt to let you act on the news, for example, when I click on that, it's going to open in ChatGPT with it already written out for you to take action on. So there's actual prompts already made. There's links to documents that you'll have access to. And I'll show you another day here so you can see here. So if I scroll down, you'll see I actually give access to different markdown files already pre-made for you. And then in addition, I actually give access to working tools. So you saw me share free LLM. There's a ton of other free tools like that I'm going to give you, which will let you use AI for free. And the only way you'll get access to those is through Vibe Methods. So again, I recommend for everybody, if you want to continue your learning, if you want to go forward, Vibe Methods is going to be your best bet, because we won't be back for new courses until December. But again, this has been a hell of a ride. I'm going to take everything I've been learning and using and doing and continue to pack it in here. So if you want to keep getting value, I know I can't do these types of live courses like we did today until December, but Vibe Methods will be happening every week. And you'll get a breakdown video of the latest news and actual tools and use cases you can put to practice. And so with that said, everybody, it's been phenomenal. I'm so honored to being able to walk on this journey with every one of you. As we wrap up, I'll see you all in Vibe Methods. And for those that, I see again later, I'll catch you on the next session, which will be in December. Stay tuned to your inboxes. Check out what's going on our academy. We're going to have so many amazing things coming. We're going to bring a store where we'll be able to subsidize. You'll get cheap product access to AI so you can subsidize your learning. And we'll have the showcase. So the things that you do, we'll be able to publish it and promote it to our audience. So with that said, thank you, everybody. Much love. It's been an honor. And I can't wait to see you on this other side. Take care.
The future of AI artists.
Not be the one to artificial intelligence.